Welcome back. So we have finished the entire east side of the map. All the levels have been explored. We even did the bonus level. We are ready to go into the desert and then the worlds that ensue from there. So let's go ahead and start up with the Parched Earth. Just as we saw when we got above ground, when we went to the ice, the mountains, we have this little title screen for crossing the desert. So we have Ferazel here making his way across the desert sands. Alright, so let's save our progress. So this is level 16. Now I did Purple Haze previously. I always do it kind of in the middle there. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like 15B, I guess. It's right after the boss. You get that little bonus. But this is really the next official level, since there's no saves there. So let's go talk to this character. Tattered Habnabbit. Oh, happy day. I thought I would never live to see another Habnabbit. I am one of the last survivors of the Zeridium mining expedition. My name is Korta. The Manitraki have decimated our ranks. I barely escaped from them with my life. Their foul stench still permeates my nostrils. How will we ever overcome them? I'm trying my hardest. Do you have any advice on how to best fight them? They seem nearly invincible to our magic. Only large explosions or heavy objects dropped from above seem to harm them. Sadly, that is the limit of my knowledge. Now, I think this dialogue is kind of interesting because it was probably meant to be read before we fight the Manitraki wizard. I just always do the eastern portion first. But if you happen to go this way earlier, which you could, you would eventually hit a wall because you wouldn't have enough red Zykrons if you don't go east. But you get this hint that you can't shoot them with magic, you have to drop things on them, which we've already been doing in our boss fights with them. Their dread queen dwells in the mountains west of here, but it seems they have set up quite a gauntlet for anyone attempting to pass through the great western desert. If one takes longer than 5 minutes to make it through, the entrance to the mountains is closed off. Truly a cruel challenge. How I would love to spite them by making it through myself, but my injuries are, alas, too debilitating. Perhaps you can do it. Good luck. So I also think that's a funny dialogue because she asks, how are we going to win? And Ferazel says, oh, I'm doing my best. As though the weight of the world is on him. I mean, all he was sent to do was figure out what happened to the mining expedition, and this is kind of his answer. They were attacked by the Manitraki, because this is the mining expedition. But let's see. Oh yeah, I'll show you what she says. Make haste, friend. The powers of the Manitraki grow stronger by the hour. You may be our only chance to defeat them. Okay, so this level's kind of interesting. What happens is when you walk by here, it's going to set a timer flag. That will open the door at the far western end of the level. There's a door that will open. So if you try to jump over it, you try to be sneaky, it won't do any good because the door will never open in the first place. So you have to activate this to get the door to open. And then you have those 5 minutes before the door closes again to get all the way across. So this is just like we saw with Hanging a Bit, and we saw with just recently the Carbit and the Labyrinth and all the different types of levels. This is an example of something completely different that we can do with this game, which is these timed levels. Just showing off another aspect of the engine. Now, what I do is what Erica recommends as well, if you look at her guide. She recommends just don't worry about the timer, because it resets every time you walk by that flag. And there's a teleporter, there are multiple teleporters throughout this level that will take you back to this starting point. So it's really better to go through and kill all the enemies, get all the secrets, just ignore the timer. And then, once everything is cleared, you can set the timer and just run across, and the environmental hazards won't be a big deal at that point. It makes it a lot easier to get everything on this level, and it also removes a lot of the time pressure. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get started getting secrets. This is a very linear level. We just have to go west and clear it as we go. So as soon as I press jump, I'm going to fly out of this cannon. Okay. Oops. Yeah, so see, if I had fallen down there earlier, I'd be in some quicksand in the cannon, so this is where we were. You actually can, climb up here. A lot of this can be bypassed if need be. So these cannons are much the same way. The idea is that you jump into them and then you time it correctly so that you can jump into the next one. So there's some ways you can actually exploit it, like you can jump into one of the cannons when it's lower and try to skip a few of them. I've done some things like that in the past. But anyways, I'll try to make some progress now. Oh well, so here's an example of the first teleporter there. That teleporter would take us back if we need to go back. But here's an example. You can skip all the cannons in this area just by running and jumping there. Is there anything up here? I don't think so. Oh, there is actually. What is it? Oh yeah, it's just the other side of that. Not really anything too meaningful. There are a few enemies on this level, not a whole lot. It mostly is just the time limit and the environmental hazards, I guess. Is there anything on... No, I don't think we can go there. You kind of want to jump out of these cannons when they're low, because the spikes overhead will hurt you otherwise. Okay, so here's a secret area up here. Unfortunately, these ones kind of hurt because I don't think you can really get by here without getting wounded. Okay, so we got some money, we get another red Zychron, and we get a second healing potion, which is nice because we can only get more than one if we were able to pick it up. So I'm just gonna, rather than try to climb down there, I would get too hurt by those climbing down, because climbing up you get hurt too. And you can't just fall through because it's like a floor, so you'd have to climb. Okay, so that's just what we did. We teleported to the start. There's some healing brine, and we just come back right here. So we'll reset the timer again, and we'll just go again. If you jump frequently, you can also avoid getting sunk into quicksand. You can kind of see how there's stages to the different environmental hazards. Oops. I'm trying to remember if this is one of the ones where you can bypass it if you're careful. No, I guess it's not an easy one to bypass. Kind of like those things you always see in movies where you have to time correctly getting through all the traps and things. Okay, so there's a teleporter. If for some reason we have to go back and teleport now. Shouldn't need to just yet. Does that invincibility come back? Oh well, there's brine at the end, so even if we didn't need it, we would be fine. Okay, a couple things. So you can climb down here, and then once you're loose, you can just sink through and then walk over on the floor, and you can make it through that way. I prefer to do this. Sand you can mostly just shoot through. So let's see, you can kind of just hold the up key and shoot as you jump, and then you can just go through the top. So that's easier. You can do it by climbing as well, because like I said before, you can almost always climb out of the sand. Anything up here? I'm just kind of exploring as I go. Whoops. I need to be a little bit more careful though. Okay, another invisibility here. Nothing down here that I'm aware of. Yeah, so this is one where they took caution to make sure you don't try to skip it by having that spike wall. Not that you couldn't, the thing is the spells are so flexible in here. I often skip the turning cannons. I think it's much easier just to skip them all together. Well, I don't think I'll be able to. It was too high up in the air. You kind of have to wait until the cannon is going down, because you'll get sent really high up if you do it right then, when the cannon is just turned to go down. But anyways, yeah, you could easily use something like the tree trunk spell and then ice wall to climb up here, because you just have so much control over how you can interact with the environment. Keep overshooting this cannon. It's really tricky because the viewpoint is not quite wide enough to see it. But it's not necessarily bad tricky. It's not like I'm dying every single time like in the ice levels. It's just that I have to keep trying until I succeed. And there's a couple more points where this happens with these dragon cannons in a couple of the later levels. There we go. I'm going to save that one for when we next come through with the run. This is a pretty treacherous area. Keeps getting me hurt. I'm saving a few of the health crystals just because I want to have them for when I go through the real time. Whoops. So this is why it's useful to do it first without the timer. See, notice the timer's expired. But the nice thing is we can take as long as we want to, picking up all the gold Zycrons, and not have to feel like we're needing to rush or anything. Anything over here? Is this accessible through here? I don't think so. Another example where you can bypass all the cannons, just run to the end, but we still have to pick up these gold Zycrons. Actually, that might be the last one. Yeah. See if we can get it. The The game really is significantly easier when you're not trying to get 100% of everything. Like in the labyrinth, for instance, there were a number of instances where we had to jump into a vat of acid to get the Zykrons. They make sure you're dedicated if you want to get them. Oops. We're definitely getting shredded here, aren't we? There are a few enemies on this level, and I think we should encounter them. Yeah, here we go. Why am I overshooting? I guess it's just the angle we're at. Maybe I have to wait until he's at a different point. They're pretty tough. They take a lot of the ice spells to kill. Let's see, what is above and what is below? There's some tile there. Alright, I actually think that is 100% of everything. Now notice the timer had expired, so the door is closed. But there's a teleporter right here, and since we have killed and finished everything, it's a good time to now go back and heal up, and this time we will run through the full level. So we're going to start the timer again, and we're actually going to try to finish it. But there's different run times you can do for these. Anything in 5 minutes is fine, and 5 minutes is really pretty easy. I think it can be done in I think a minute and a half is about the best I've seen it. If someone were trying to speed run or something, you'd probably do it even faster than that if you really wanted to. But yeah, with 5 minutes we'll be just fine. If we get caught up somewhere, we'll just do it again. It's not like we can't reset the timer. So this is pretty familiar to us. We've seen all this before. Oops. A little bit ambitious there. There's fire below. I'm going to try to avoid it. It really doesn't look like I should be fine between these spikes, but I'm not going to complain. Actually, the spiked ball graphic is kind of interesting to me because it is a little bit unique. It has kind of a 3D effect. Oops. Whereas most of the other things are drawn in a more traditional flat 2D way. Okay, unfortunately the invulnerability didn't come back, so we're just going to get a little bit hurt. Is there anything over there? I don't think so. I guess we'll go ahead and pick up the super speed. But yeah, I don't think this level really has a whole lot of secrets. It's just pretty much the level that it is. This is probably the more annoying part in terms of, you know, something that you can't easily skip and that you have to do right. for the timing. But most of the other places you can kind of skip. So I'm kind of glad I saved as many of those as I did, because I'm definitely having to endure a lot of getting hit by spikes. Alright, we'll heal up a tiny bit here. As I recall, this is an example where we can just bypass everything. I mean, you can climb that if you want to. There's no reason not to. I just think it's... if you've collected all the Zycrons, there's really no reason to. Is there anything below this? Hopefully we got 100% everything. If we missed something, we'll know pretty fast, because we'll be out the door here. See, we've been running, but I still think we've been going at a fairly leisurely pace. And it took under 4 minutes. So if you really want to stretch it to its limit, I'd be curious to see a speed run through here, because it definitely can be quite a bit faster. But anyways, yeah, if the time runs out when we're behind the door, it won't matter, because we already have our access to the exit. So let's save our game. And that is the end of Parched Earth. So the door would just close again, but we might as well go ahead and finish and make sure we got 100% of everything. Very good. So that is Parched Earth. That was the entrance to the desert world. And this one opens 2 paths. So as soon as we walk across the Great Western Desert, as it was called, we get these 2 branching options. To the north, we get Ends of the Earth. Now that takes us up into the Mandatraki realm. And we can't go there yet, because we actually need to have more red Zycrons. Like I said very early on, red Zycrons are like a currency in this game, where you need to have them to access the very end levels. So if we can't go there, we would be able to go down. And that takes us to the Dig, which is another desert level. And it's another interesting level. It's going to be its own type of thing. But we'll go there next. But anyways, Parched Earth is kind of an entertaining one. If you get all the secrets first, there's not that many of them. And then you can just kind of go through and run through the level. And you can do it pretty leisurely in the 5 minutes. And if you really go fast, you can probably do it quite a bit faster. But whatever the case, once you get to the end, you have the pathway to the last few levels open. So we'll pick up with the Dig next time.